Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the major number HIT or HIT-41 AR2. Here it is. This is a template that is used to prep aluminum frames for the 7130 or the 7430 series electric strikes by Adams Rite. The only difference between those two, and I'll show you in a moment, is the corner. The 7130 is a radiused corner, I believe, and the 7430 is a square corner. You're going to use the same template. It's just a matter of whether or not you're going to file out the corners square when you are using your standard router bit. So this is obviously a couple of pieces of aluminum that have been machined and attached together, and this is something that you will mechanically fasten directly to your aluminum frame and then have at it with your router. And that's what this is. It is certainly conceptually easy to understand how to prep a wood frame, an aluminum frame, a steel frame, fiberglass, whatever you're prepping for hardware. And you can look at the template and say, okay, well, I see the height, I see the width, I see the face, I see that height. Okay, now what do I do? You know, so you've got to either get a die grinder, a jigsaw, a die set that would be obviously nice and easy to do, or if you're looking at major hardware, you are likely an integrator, a locksmith, a building engineer, and you're adding an electric strike to an existing installation. So you're probably not doing it in a shop setting, but if you were, this could be a very great tool to use. And in fact, it's really no different than anything that you might make on your own. But what I'm driving at there when I say that, and I've made many templates myself, because either A, I didn't have the time to buy one, I didn't want to spend the money to buy one, even though you spend the money when you make one, but I wanted to have one that met my requirements exactly. So this to me is probably a perfect template. I've not thought about how I would change it, with the exception of saying that my undeniable strength of true laziness might get me to make this a little bit different so that I could really be lazy. And what I mean by that is probably wouldn't work with this, but if I was going to make a template for vision frames that I would put a router and prep indoors, I would probably make it, depending on the size of the window I was going to route into the door, would, if it was steel, you know, I could probably still use a template so that I could just mark it off. I would probably make it so that it was always to the bottom of the door, and it was always to the lock style of the door, so that I could square it off in that corner, flush it off to the side and clamp it down, and make it, you know, a 6-foot long template, piece of 3/4 plywood. And the reason is because I would never have to measure, because if you have a 6/8, 7/0, 8/0, 9/0, a 12-foot door, that 10x10 vision frame is generally in the same location every time, or that 5x20 is generally always at the same vertical height and always the same distance over. So I would look to make the template even more appropriate to suit my true laziness. But with this, all you have to do is find your center line, attach it to the frame, drill a hole, and then route everything out. And this is intended for aluminum frames. You're going to use a 2-flute, probably a 1/2-inch diameter carbide router bit. The same router bit you would use for metal will certainly work in aluminum, and the only major difference is that aluminum really chatters. You'll absolutely want not only eye protection, lung protection, which is the one that a lot of us don't pay attention to, but we do get that tap on the shoulder later in life that could have been done better. And then, of course, ear protection, and absolutely ear protection, all of them. You don't want to breathe in particulate of aluminum, obviously. You don't want to get that in your eye. So anyway, the point of the matter is it will screech. So be mindful when you're routing aluminum. If you're doing it in a noisy office environment, you might want to pick and choose the best time. So a couple of basic dimensions, and by the way, this weighs 1.67 pound. Very thick, generous aluminum that looks like it's probably about 7/16 or ½ inch. Nope, thicker than that, 5/8. The overall length of the template, about 11 inch. The width on the rabbit side of the frame, the overall, about 2 3/4. The face of the frame, overall, is about 2 inch. Okay. This preparation has literally been designed for that 71, 74, 30 series strike. Laser, well, it's etched here. I'm not sure how they do it. I'm sure it's just engraved. And that is nice because really big letters that you can see from a distance what template it is, and you'll always know what you're pulling. The two other things that come in the paperwork, come in the package, are the paperwork, the installation instructions. This is a packet. You might say to yourself, a packet? Why do you need a packet? This is literally a 12-page packet, if not more. The reason it's so many pages is because Major does a great job in using really large fonts and lots of photos. And you go through this, and we will in a moment, and you'll realize this is easy stuff. So they make the learning process super simple by the format. The other thing that you're going to get are screws. You're going to locate your holes. You'll mechanically fasten this to the frame, and those holes are located in the proper location for your mounting tabs. So you get a 2-for-1 there. So let's switch to the screen view, and let's take a closer look at all the supporting documentation. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. Okay, let's take a look at the extended description information that we have. Color of template aside, it's a HIT-41 AR2 router template for the 71 and 74 30 series strikes. Used to install those two strikes. Used opposite the Adams Rite latch when replacing an MS series lock. So what they're driving at here is these strikes are used when you're going from a bolt to a latch. Why? Because you want to add an electric strike. So you've got to change the lock body when you have a hook bolt or a deadbolt. The larger 6 7/8 face will cover the strike opening by the MS deadbolt. So what they're saying there is the MS deadbolt will have a long slot in the frame, or a strike that'll kind of look like this, very exaggerated. And that's because that bolt enters down here, and as the bolt gets thrown up, it tightens the door and frame together. And I don't know what this dimension is, 3.5 inch, something like that. But that's why you need a bigger faceplate, because you're literally going from a bolt to access control is what you're doing. When you buy one, we'll ship you one. Product brochure we'll get to in a moment. Installation instructions are up next, but let's look at the photographs that I have. There's the packaging. What is not pictured here are the screws that you get. Different views of this template. I do, though, have pictures of the screws just for you to see. A bugle head, self-drilling, drywall type screw is all that it is. Now, let's look at the installation instructions. And this may seem a bit tedious, and if you don't need to know how to install it, I would gloss right over this area. But like I said, you know, we're into page 5 before anything actually even starts about installing it. Cover page, stop, read all the instructions. I had a client call me about door closers that weren't closing all the way. The closer was standing ajar a few degree. You know, I went through 6 possible scenarios of why that would occur before we realized, well, have you read the instructions? Because it says you need to set the tension on the spring, and the client hadn't set it even remotely correct. And once that was done, he was in real good shape. Your router must be equipped with a template guide prior to use. Failure to do so will result in the wrong size opening in the door or jam and possible damage to your router template. This is exceptionally crucial. Aluminum door templates require a 3/8 outside diameter template guide and a 1/4 inch diameter bit. I said 1/2 inch earlier. It's not, it's 1/4 inch. So what they're saying there is, there might be a picture of it. Yeah, they're showing it here. We'll get to it. Make adjustments to all door hardware, etc. Wear eye and ear protection. Always route in a clockwise direction. A counterclockwise direction will cause the router bit to climb in the cut and cause an unstable situation. Yeah, definitely. You don't want to lose your router in your workpiece. That will make you wish you could start over. Eye and ear protection again. Now, your router needs to be equipped with a 3/8. The OD of the router guide needs to be 3/8. The point is, the reason that is because literally the size of the face, the size of the strike, the size of the faceplate is not this size. It's this size minus 3/8. A total, really. 3/16 on the perimeter. You need to have that guide, otherwise it's just not going to work. So 3/8 on the OD. Whatever router you have, whoever the manufacturer is, Porter Cable, DeWalt, Sears, whoever it is, no one cares. It doesn't matter, meaning no one cares, meaning it doesn't matter whose tool you have, as long as you can get a 3/8 unit on there, a 3/8 OD. Then your bit needs to be 1/4 inch. And that is going to, well, actually I said 3/8 earlier. It's really going to be a 1/4 inch because that's the net result. Install a 1/4 inch diameter aluminum cutting router bit into the router collet and secure tightly. Do not bottom the bit in the collet. Hold it about a 1/16 from the bottom. Adjust the router bit so it will route 1/4 to 3/8 into the door channel. Okay. The electric strike being installed in the following demonstration is for an offset hung door, meaning pivots or butts or continuous hinges. There are strike models available for both offset and center hung. If mounting in a center hung jamb, be sure there is depth clearance for the strike. Our website has a complete listing of templates. Okay, great. So let's get started. You've installed the latch body into the preparation in the door. For height alignment, let the door close into the jamb. With a pencil, locate the top and bottom of the latch, right on the face of the jamb. Transfer these lines to the front and side of the jamb with the use of a combination square. So what they're saying is you're going to mark the face of the frame here. Little pencil mark. Get your combination square, and combination squares are super helpful. You will use them constantly when you are laying out function holes for hardware. Okay, you've seen them. If you don't own one, it's definitely a good piece of equipment to have because you will use it. Take the time to use the combination square because these lines will be quite light. You need to mark them heavy. Have a nice 2B or whatever, a heavy pencil. So you're going to transfer that from the face to the rabbet of the frame. With a combination square, establish the center line of the strike, meaning the vertical center line in the rabbet. Maybe not the vertical, just the center line within the rabbet. The door and strike need to have the same center line. So the center line in the rabbet is not going to be the center line of the door because the rabbet is going to be larger than the door size, the door thickness. You just need to make sure that the edge of the door, where the lock is, transfers to the center line of the rabbet. If it's an aluminum frame, which it will be, you could have a flush situation where the door is flush to the face of the frame. You could also have a condition where there's an inset. Hollow metal, there's always an inset. Wood, sometimes there's an inset, sometimes there's not. So be mindful of determining where that center line is. If you've ever installed a strike or put something on and then you had to file the strike, yeah, it's because it's not really in the best location. For a standard 1 3/4 door, this dimension is 7/8 from the door stop if the lock is centered in the door channel. Maybe. If the lock is off center, adjust accordingly. The face of the electric strike and the face of the lock must be centered together when the door is closed. This is the most important line here. Align the HIT-41 template to the pencil marks and attach to the jamb using Tech Point drywall screws. It is a good idea to use a drill with a clutch feature. You don't want to snap the screw off in the jamb, and that's easy to do with a drywall screw. You can't really see them. Well, there you go. These two lines. Guess what those are for? Yeah, certainly you guessed it. He's lining them up right here with the top and bottom of your latch. Some HIT-41 templates have one screw hole top and bottom, and some have two. These holes will align with factory mounting tabs needed later. Some factory tabs are mounted with one and some with two. How many are needed depends on the strike you are using. One screw top and bottom will hold the template. The second hole for the tab can be located by drilling with a 9/64 drill bit or by using a second screw. Template mounted and ready to go. We recommend the area to be routed, be lubricated with a cutting lube. That's always a great idea. It makes a mess, but it will not only substantially prolong the life expectancy of your tools, but it ought to serve to keep things, marginally less loud. The factory suggests Tapmatic edge cream made by LPS. LPS makes a lot of lubricants. White lithium grease is one that you'll use on the inside of mortise lock cases. You can find this at industrial hardware stores. You can find it in our website, most certainly, by LPS. LPS is a common term, obviously. Yeah, LPS Labs. That's what we're looking for. So you'd be able to buy lubricant from us for this project. Also a handy product to use for other drilling and tapping chores? Absolutely. If you're going to, you need to have lubricant. I'll just leave it at that. Adjust the router so that it is a 1/4 inch past the aluminum as shown. Place the router at the bottom of the template because you're going to move clockwise. You will be routing the lip area first, rotating clockwise starting at the bottom. Let the router come to full speed and route through the side of the jamb. Be sure to hold the router flat against the template and do not back up in the cut. When completed at the top, let the router come to a complete stop before removing it from the template. That's in bold, all caps, because it needs to be observed. Don't be tempted to take the router out of the workpiece until it's completely stopped rotating. You're just going to nick the frame is what's going to, or your template, really. Now, they've made, it's a little hard to see at first, but they've made their tool path right here through the work. All you're going to do is this clockwise prep at this point. Note that we did not route through the top of the lip area. This will be cut out in the next pass. If you run through the sidewall, you will run the risk of hitting the template and the router bit. So don't just this way, out, stop, turn it off, wait for it to stop, pull the tool out. Now, place the router at the top of the template, as shown here. Now you're going to route the faceplate area. The router guide should be touching the electric strike template with the bit not making contact with the frame. Let the router bit come to full speed, and then continue on your tool path. Be sure to hold the router flat against the template. Don't back up. Let it come to a complete stop before you pull it out. Brush the aluminum chips from the router guide to prepare for the second pass. Now, that's super important. If there's someone with you, my recommendation is that you have your shop vac, and they are collecting that material at the time that you are routing it. Okay? A running shop vac is a less awful sound than a chattering router bit in aluminum, so it kind of makes it less awful. You're going to want to thoroughly clean the tool as well, because if you're going to use this on wood, you don't want any buried particulate, micro aluminum pieces there scratching your wood projects. I know some people, myself included, that almost will never use tools that are meant for wood on any other surface and vice versa. Okay, so now you're going to clean up everything. Great opportunity for that shop vac. After making the first pass, brush away the chips and make a second clean up pass. So just one cut and then go back and clean it up one time, and that's all. Meaning, if you're going to do it more than twice, you run the possibility of damaging something. Remove the jam from the template. Pardon me, remove the template from the jam. Clean the area off now. All the lube, anything else that's left there. Any cut that you might want to smooth out with a file, I'd go ahead, but be mindful. It's to the right size, so filing it is only going to make it larger. Use a machinist scraper or an aluminum cutting file and deburr all the openings. Don't forget to square off the corners for the lip area in front of the frame, as the router will leave these round. This will always be square edge here on the face of the frame, not in the rabbet. That may be radiused. If the installation calls for a round corner faceplate, just clean it up. You've got a rat tail file here. That's what that's for. If you're installing a strike with a square faceplate, then you're going to use a flat file. Now it's time to drill out the holes needed for the factory mounting tabs. Use a 3/16 drill bit for this job. Note the template in this case uses 2 mounting tabs, top and bottom. Some strikes only require 1, so your template may be different than this. Countersink the holes. Tabs are going to go in here. You'll use the mounting screws. It'll look like that when you're done. Very clean job. Install your mounting tabs. This template doesn't include them, but sometimes generally your electric strike will. Install that electric strike. We're clear these installation instructions are the right strike, just a different faceplate. Okay. Whatever 7000 series that is. Well, actually, no, this is not Adams Rite. Not sure whose this is. Hess, maybe? Yeah, it's Hess. Hanchett Entry Systems. Once upon a time, they were not owned by Assa Abloy. They were just Hess strikes. Install strike to factory mounting tabs. Tighten your screws. Installation is done. That's all there is to it. There you go. That's all. Now, let's take a look here. In our website, you can type in Adams, get to the manufacturer's page on any item, or alternatively, at the bottom of any page, you should find manufacturers. So when you get to the manufacturer's page, you can pull up the product catalog. From here, you can do a find function on your keyboard for 7130, and eventually you are going to get to the electric strike area, which I have done so. Yeah, 7100 series strikes. 7130. 7430 was the other one. So 7130, here's the size of the faceplate. We had talked earlier about 7130, size, flat with radiused corners. Yeah, then your 7430 is a radiused corner strike as well. Yeah, I don't see a square corner 6 7/8 tall unit here, but they're saying that we're using this for the 7430 as well. Yeah, okay. So the 7130 and the 7430 are both radiused corner strikes, is what the bottom line is. You can look at the 7130 in the Adams Rite catalog should you want additional information on what you're prepping. You can see that there's a one-hole situation for the mounting tab here. Okay. 7130. Let's look for that 7430 just to take a look at it. Ultraline 7400 series. Electric strikes for Adams, Rite dead latches, and cylindrical locks. There it is. 6 7/8, flat with radiused corners. $74.30. Here's your document, should you want to see more information about it. And that's what you're prepping. Okay, now let's close that up. Let's take a look at the other link that's here, the product brochure. This is going to allow you to look at different templates. So we're doing a HIT-41 AR. There's an AR3 for installing that strike in a jam. AR4, different applications. AR5, AR6. That you might see that in your jam. Different Adams Rite items. Now what's interesting is our AR1 isn't here. I'll see if AR2. That's a 40 AR2. I'll have to review this link to see why we're missing the 41 AR2. There's a link below this video here to the manufacturer's page, and from here you can pull up not only all of the major products that we sell by means of this horizontal navigation, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. And let's fire that up. And then let's just search for AR2. HIT-41 AR2 is on page 88. So let's just hop down to page 88. There it is. HIT-41 AR1, 71 and 7400. AR2, which is the model that we're looking at right here. Obviously 4 7/8, 6 7/8. AR3, probably for a center hung situation. Yeah, center hung. There it is. Okay, there's the bit that you would use on this, the right size. Let's see if they have any guides here. I believe they do. Yeah, router guide. Let's see. They may not sell these. I thought that they did, but apparently they don't. But that is an easy item that you will get from your tool manufacturer. You've got a router, you're going to have a guide with it. What's nice about the rest of this catalog is your ability to be able to tear through all of this material and really look at all of the other types of templates that are available. And I would really encourage you to do that. And if you do this type of work, you're going to realize that this catalog is one that you wished you had discovered years ago because of the uniqueness of the product line. Lots of templates. The last 50% of the catalog is all templates. And the first half of it is basically security hardware. A lot of security hardware and items that locksmiths and building engineers, security folks would find very interesting and useful. Let's wrap up this video on camera. If you've not hit subscribe yet, we would very much appreciate if you did, and hopefully you're enjoying this video. Now, let's get back to it. So if you have any questions on the HIT-41 AR2 template or any other major product, please feel free to reach out to us. They are extremely knowledgeable over at Major. They are extremely willing to help. And in the words of the gentleman there, when you ask him about his templates, it is basically a situation where, you might ask about a template and he'll say something to the effect that it helps when you have a tool nerd who has a lot of field experience. So what he's driving at is this tool is made because the fellow who designed it was solving the problem in the field, being asked to do the work. And there are people out in the world that are so exceptionally mechanically inclined that they end up producing product lines, and Major's not the only one, that has a line of tools designed by someone with substantial field experience, but it is a small list of people that can not only recognize the problem, but solve it for themselves, and ultimately solve it for many other people as well. There are times when I call Major and say, okay, I'm not getting it. What is this? Why is this mounting tab the way it is? And he'll say, oh, you know that? And I'll say, yeah. He's like, yeah, it's used for this. Got it. Most of the product line I understand because I've spent years machining doors, whether they be metal or wood, interpreting templates, and knowing and using a combination square a lot, laying that stuff out and realizing, yeah, laziness is a good motivator. It takes time to make a template, or it takes a lot of money to buy a template. But boy, after that, you're done. You're very economical in your work. Now, some people might say, oh, I'd never buy that template. Well, why is that? Well, I can just do it by hand just as fast. Well, maybe. I don't agree, but you might be able to. The reason that these templates exist is not only for those people that recognize that they want to be as efficient as possible when it comes to performing the work and having the net result as clean and professional looking as possible. You are not going to get the same end results out of a jigsaw operation that you will a router. If you're going to use a jigsaw, you can kind of eyeball it. I've done it. It's okay. You get good enough at it and you can cut straight. Heaven forbid that tool jumps on you. You do it with a router, and unless you are severely not paying attention, your net result is going to look really nice. These templates exist because generally the person who, either the person buying the template is the only person that will ever use it, like a handyman. A guy, some handyman, people call themselves handyman, they install deadbolts on doors for people and things like that. And they'll have a lock installation kit. No one will ever use that because they're just a one-man show. Then you'll have other situations where you might have a mid-sized contractor and their door supplier forgot to prep all of the doors for function holes when it was clear that they were supposed to. So someone at the mid-sized contractor is going to purchase from me a whole mess of tools. I'm going to teach them how to use them. They are then going to teach a team of 3 people to go out and do 200 doors on a Saturday. The template allows you to ritualize the process. It's harder to make a mistake when you have step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. You don't have to think about the science of the lock. You don't have to wonder about the difference between the size of the prep in the template and why you are using a 3/8 OD router guide. You don't have to be concerned about that. If you were asked, you couldn't answer the question. So the template allows you to make it easier on people who may not be thinking about that stuff. So it's either one of those scenarios I have found. It's mostly people that are doing the work themselves. But I'll tell you, if you do one and you're never going to do one again, I suppose it's hard to rationalize buying the template, especially if you have an alternative means that you already own to do it. But if you believe you're going to do more than one, the template, which is investment quality, investment grade, and will last for decades, I think that is an investment worth making. If you have any questions on the HIT-41 AR2 or any other major product, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you very much. Thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up, please subscribe, and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.